Good evening. In a rare disagreement with Beijing, Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying has rejected state media claims that Occupy Central's unofficial referendum on democratic reform is an illegal farce, and the turnout is no match for China's 1.3 billion citizens. Leung said it's not right to pit one side against another, and it's not illegal to take part in the referendum. ATV's Emily Sue reports.
Speaking before his weekly cabinet meeting this morning, the chief executive addressed the mainland state-run newspaper's dismissal of Occupy Central's unofficial referendum as an illegal farce. In a surprising departure from his usual responses, Leung Chun-ying disagreed with the editorial by Beijing's mouthpiece, the Global Times. Leung said no one should compare Hong Kong people with mainlanders or pit one side against the other. He was commenting on the article headlined, "No matter how many people participate in Hong Kong's illegal referendum, it won't be as many as 1.3 billion people, the population of China." The chief executive said no matter how many people take part in the unofficial vote, he believes most of them want universal suffrage. He noted that both Hong Kongers and mainlanders get annoyed when one side interferes in the other's affairs. Leung said while people on both sides of the border have different views on issues of mutual concern, they shouldn't oppose each other. And as for the Global Times' dismissal of the exercise as an illegal farce, he pointed out that while the Occupy Central poll has no legal basis, it's not a criminal offense to participate in it. Leung reiterated that both the Beijing and Hong Kong governments want universal suffrage for the 2017 chief executive election, but political reform must conform with the basic law and not international standards. With more than 730,000 people having voted in the referendum on 3 proposed methods of electing the chief executive by allowing ordinary voters to pick candidates, Occupy Central organizers have been urging them to take it further by joining the July 1st pro-democracy march. The Pan-Democrats saw Leung's statement today as an obvious attempt to keep people off the streets next Tuesday, when hundreds of thousands are expected to take part in the annual mass rally to press for genuine political reform.
I think what the chief executive said this morning was clearly meant to cool down the public sentiments on the demand for an electoral model without pre-vetting. But I observe that the statements were very hollow. It does not have any substantial content to it.
I am surprised that C.Y. Leung would dare to speak against the Global Times, because it's a key member of the official media in Beijing. The only explanation is that he would need to talk like the way he did. He wouldn't want to annoy more Hong Kong people.
Since online polling began last Friday, Occupy Central has far exceeded its original target of attracting 100,000 voters to declare the referendum successful. On Sunday, about 48,000 people voted at polling stations across the city. One booth at City University remains open, and others will reopen on Sunday, after which the plebiscite ends, just 2 days before the July 1st rally. The Global Times published another commentary today condemning the poll and the radical opposition camp behind it for dragging Hong Kong to a murky future. The paper compared the situation to the unrest in Ukraine and Bangkok, where it said protesters made demands that seemed quite democratic at first glance, but which were launched in a barbarous way totally incompatible with a democratic society.
Leung Chun-ying also released a report card today on his performance over the past year, giving himself high marks for progress in every area. The Pan-Democrats accused the chief executive of ignoring public discontent. Here's Emily Sue.
For the second year in a row, Leung Chun-ying released his work report a week ahead of the July 1st mass rally, trumpeting his government's achievements over the past year. In a 41-page online report card, Leung gave himself good grades and took credit for progress in every area despite some contentious issues. On helping the poor and needy, Leung cited the setting up of Hong Kong's first ever poverty line and the $3.1 billion he has allocated for subsidies for low-income families. But he made no mention of a universal retirement protection scheme that many are demanding. Leung took credit for the city's extremely low unemployment rate and stable economic growth. He highlighted his utmost efforts to increase land and housing supply, as well as his anti-speculation measures to tackle soaring property prices. There was only one paragraph on political reform, with Leung taking credit for launching a formal public consultation on the issue. The pan-democratic camp was not impressed by his backpatting and accused the chief executive of ignoring growing public discontent.
It's for the Hong Kong people to judge how he's been doing. And as far as I could see, it's an absolute zero. He has achieved nothing. And on top of that, he has actually done Hong Kong quite a bit of harm.
Many people are still living in totally unacceptable conditions. This is very, very bad. We are worse than some fourth world countries. And so I don't know why Mr. Leung seemed to be bragging about his record, when in fact I think the track record is very abysmal.
Unionist lawmaker Lee Cheuk-yen said only a person as arrogant as Leung could release the report to praise himself when public confidence in his leadership is at a record low. The report card also omitted the hurdles some of his policies are facing in LegCo, as opposition lawmakers try to delay the relevant bills using tactics such as filibustering. Some pro-government lawmakers were critical as well.
I give him very high marks for implementing what he pledged, but I actually gave him very low marks for having these policies in place and being implemented because he couldn't get it past LegCo. So you need to really reach the grassroots, listen to them, and touch their heart. CY's biggest challenge is how to touch people's heart so that there is widespread support for his policy, so that in turn it creates little incentive for the legislators to continue to filibuster and keep the world moving.
In the chief executive's defense, Beijing loyalists like Ip Kwok Kim of the DAB said Leung had done his best.
The MPF Schemes Authority is proposing a core fund to be offered as a default option to anyone seeking a low-risk, low-fee pension fund. The authority says this will help protect people's retirement money in case of a market crash or bad investments. Since the mandatory provident fund system was launched almost 14 years ago, more than 2.5 million workers have been chipping in for their retirement savings. Employees can make their own investment choices by selecting funds. But if they fail to do so, the trustees of the scheme they are enrolled in will, by default, invest their contributions in one or more of the funds specified under the rules. With a great variety of funds to choose from, as well as high fees, employees are often confused and undecided. Now the MPF Authority has decided to go a step further and step up regulation of the default arrangements to offer better protection to members who fail to select funds.
We want to reduce volatility. There are people who find at the end that suddenly there is a huge market crisis and they suffer a huge drop from which they could never recover.
The authority has proposed a core fund which reduces investment risk and whose fee is kept at 0.75% or less of fund assets. It will serve as the default fund of all schemes.
The incentives are, number one, the pot is going to get bigger. Number two, you can innovate your investment methods to achieve greater efficiency. And we hope to do that by restructuring a product called core fund, which will have economy of scale, which will have standardization of product categories within it, and which will offer a long-term solution.
Wu added that the core fund will be available to all scheme members and hopes that its fee will be used as a benchmark for other trustees to lower their charges, a long-standing complaint about the current system. The authority has kicked off a 3-month public consultation and hopes to launch the core fund in 2016. The MTRC has unveiled plans to build a metal wall around the site in To Kwa Wan, where ancient relics were dug up during construction work on the Sha Tin to Central rail link. ATV's Arthur Okuola reports.
MTRC representatives met the Antiquities Advisory Board this morning to unveil plans to protect about 3,000 ancient artifacts found at the construction site of To Kwa Wan Station on the Sha Tin to Central link. The discovery of the historic hall in April has held up the construction of a vertical shaft for a tunnel boring machine. The nearly $80 billion project has already been delayed by 5 months because of the find, but there are now concerns that it will not be completed as scheduled in 2018. The relics, some of which date back to the Song dynasty, which began in the 9th century, include 2 wells, one square-shaped and the other circular, and a nullah. The railway operator has proposed resuming excavation work after erecting a metal wall to shield the relics from damage. Antiquities Board members were concerned that construction of the wall could affect the artifacts. But the MTRC said it plans to employ a hydraulic machine that installs metal sheet piles without any damaging vibrations. Construction will begin more than 15 meters from the place where the artifacts were found and move progressively closer. At its closest point, the wall will be 1.8 meters away from one of the wells. This will allow the process to be continuously monitored and give enough time to fine-tune the installation to make sure the archaeological finds remain undisturbed.
I wouldn't say it's perfect. Nothing is perfect, but I think we have to accept what's been offered at this point in time to make sure that the protection measures will be in place for those excavator items during the rainy season.
The railway plans to start work on the wall tomorrow. Arthur Urquiola, ATV News.
Overseas, the Philippines has come out in support of the Japanese Prime Minister's push for a stronger defense policy. Their joint stand is bound to annoy China, which is locked in territorial disputes with its neighbors.
Philippine President Benigno Aquino's words in Tokyo must have been music to the ears of his host, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. The Japanese leader has been trying to move away from his country's pacifist constitution and give the military more teeth. Abe wants Japanese troops to be able to take part in collective self-defense, which will enable them to go to the aid of allies.
We believe that nations of goodwill can only benefit if the Japanese government is empowered to assist others and is allowed the wherewithal to come to the aid of those in need, especially in the area of collective self-defense.
China and South Korea, which were invaded by Japanese imperial forces in the 1930s, are suspicious of Tokyo's intentions. But this sentiment is not shared by the Philippines, which was conquered by Japan during the Second World War.
We therefore do not view with alarm any proposal to revisit the Japanese constitution if the Japanese people so desire, especially if this enhances Japan's ability to address its international obligations and brings us closer to the attainment of our shared goals of peace, stability, and mutual prosperity.
Manila and Tokyo are in the same boat today. Both are engaged in spats with Beijing over resource-rich maritime regions. The Philippines has asked the UN to arbitrate in its dispute with Beijing over conflicting territorial claims in the South China Sea. China has refused to take part in the process.
British Prime Minister David Cameron has been forced to apologise for hiring Andy Coulson as his spin doctor after the former tabloid editor was found guilty of being part of a phone hacking conspiracy.
Well, I take full responsibility for employing Andy Coulson. I did so on the basis of undertakings I was given by him about phone hacking, and those turn out not to be the case. I always said that if they turned out to be wrong, I would make a full and frank apology, and I do that today. I'm extremely sorry that I employed him. It was the wrong decision, and I'm very clear about that.
Coulson was hired by Cameron in 2007 after he resigned as editor of the now-defunct News of the World tabloid when 2 of its employees were jailed for phone hacking. Another close friend of Cameron, Rebecca Brooks, was cleared of all charges today. As the former head of media tycoon Rupert Murdoch's British newspaper business, she had been accused of orchestrating a campaign to hack into phones and bribe officials in the hunt for exclusive news. Sports now. Brazil have topped their group at the World Cup with 2 goals from star striker Neymar, while holders Spain regained some pride despite leaving the tournament early. ATV's Bolang reports.
Brazil were in full flow when they met Cameroon in the final group match. Golden boy Neymar's cheeky side-footed finish opened Brazil's account. It was also the 100th goal of the tournament. But Cameroon equalised 10 minutes later through a close-range effort from Joel Matip. Brazil, however, ended the half 2-1 up after Neymar grabbed his second, his 35th goal in 52 internationals. Just after the break, Fred made it 3-1. And the writing was on the wall for Cameroon when substitute Fernandinho slotted in Brazil's fourth late in the game to send the host to the last 16. In the same group, it was a do-or-die match for Croatia in their tie against Mexico. After a goalless first half, Mexico scored thrice in 10 minutes, the first a powerful header by Rafael Marquez in the 72nd minute. Next up was Andre Guardado, whose shot rose high into the Croatian net. Substitute Javier Hernandez of Manchester United put the game beyond Croatia's reach after ending an 11-match goal drought by nodding in from close range to make it 3-0. Croatia managed a consolation goal 3 minutes from time through Ivan Perisic. Group A matches ended with Brazil and Mexico on 7 points each, although the Brazilians finished top with a better goal difference, while Croatia and Cameroon were sent packing. By finishing as leaders, Brazil avoid Holland, who topped Group B in the knockout stage. The Dutch took on Chile in their final preliminary match, with both already securing last 16 slots. Several goal-scoring chances went begging in the first half, despite the South Americans' efforts. It was left to substitute Leroy Fer, who plays for Norwich, to put the Dutch ahead on 77 minutes. Memphis Depay wrapped up a 2-0 victory when he tapped in an Arjen Robben cross in stoppage time. Outgoing champion Spain had nothing but pride to play for when they took on Australia in a dead rubber. David Villa flicked in the opener for Spain, who led 1-0 at half-time. Chelsea's Fernando Torres made it 2-0, netting his first World Cup goal since 2006. Another Premiership player, Juan Mata of Manchester United, made the scoreline more respectable with a third for Spain late on. Holland, as Group B leaders, will play Mexico in the next phase, while runners-up Chile take on Brazil. Australia finished bottom without a single point. Just hours after the final whistle, Spain took the plane home to face a nation shattered by their World Cup flop.
Finance news: Hong Kong stocks have recovered some ground a day after posting their biggest losses in 3 months. The Hang Seng Index rose 0.3% or 75 points to close at 22,880 on turnover of $43 billion. Gains were limited by weaker Chinese gas and oil firms amid a crackdown on corruption in the sector. Let's take a look at markets overseas, starting in the US. The Dow Jones is up 24 points. In Europe, the London FTSE is down 4 points. The Frankfurt DAX is up 21 points. The Paris CAC is up 8 points. US dollar cross rates: the euro is 1.35, the pound is 1.69, it's 102.16 Japanese yen against the US dollar. Time to check your Mark 6 tickets. Tonight's winning numbers: 18, 24, 25, 30, 31, 35. The extra number is 36. The weather forecast for the next few days: cloudy with showers tomorrow and a few thunderstorms in the morning. Temperatures will range from 26 to 31 degrees. Showers in the morning followed by sunny periods on Thursday and more of the same over the rest of the week. Here's a look at the weather around the world. That's all the news for now. Thanks for watching ATV. I'm Edna. Good night.
Coming up, Racing to Win. ATV Asia channel makes this summer even hotter. The latest information. Enlightening documentaries. Keeping pace with time. Embrace the coming amazing summer. Art Vision.
I decided I'm going to take the contract at Ballet West.
Whoever enters the Dream Ballet School has to be completely focused.
Ballet is my dream. I've sacrificed everything for it, and ballet is my life.
For those who aren't, practice never stops.
Work environments, people end up separating their personal lives and their work lives, but for us, that doesn't exist. There is no line.
Breaking Point, Friday night at 10. Elemental Evolution. ATV Miss Asia Pageant 2014 is now inviting applications. Elemental Evolution. ATV Miss Asia Pageant 2014. Application form is available at ATV website and the following locations.
咁都唔吹？喂，揸車啊，唔好飲啦！打不喎，飲啊！啊！
嚟，佢要揸車啊，你仲飲？
飲少少啫。
唔好再飲啦。
得啦，有分數啦，定啲喎。
Two people were killed and two others injured in a fatal traffic accident at midnight last night. The driver was arrested for drink driving.
If you drink, don't drive.
Be cool. Keep updated with the international music scene. Warner Music Power Station, Thursday night at 10.
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome along to Racing to Win. The season is, well, fast on the countdown now. This will be our last Wednesday night program, and it's an all-dirt fixture tomorrow.
That it is, Darren, yes. At Sha Tin, all dirt racing tomorrow. The last couple of weeks we've had a few turf races in there, but yes, all-weather racing. No jackpots to report. The TT was won for just over $6 million on the weekend, so should be an interesting night of racing. We've had a fair bit of rain around, Cliff.
Yeah, I think the forecasters, well, I was forecasting a wet track on the weekend, but I think tomorrow night, I believe they think it'll be drier. That's how I've done my form. But I think importantly, tomorrow night, Darren, Casper Founds, who's 2 behind John Size now, looks like he could be a chance of really cutting into that lead, possibly Tony Cruz as well. So it's a really interesting night as far as the Trainers' Championship's concerned.
Yeah, well, what a big day for Tony Cruz with his training treble, and we'll touch on all of the highlights for you right now from the weekend, and well, let's kick that off. More cup joy for Tony Millard. He won the Members' Cup with Sparkling Bee. He went off at good odds. The pace was good, and well, it was a bit of a rough finish here. Sparkling Bee, the winner, was 14-1. The runner-up, New Stamina, was 20s, and the third horse was about 25s. You are the one.
Yeah, well, Sparkling Bee was racing well earlier on in the term, and then his last probably 2 or 3 runs, he hadn't done a great deal, but he got a lot of pace here, and then when he got into the clear, he really let down well. And as you highlighted on Racing to Win last week, Clint, it's almost a year to the day that he won his only other race here in Hong Kong.
And I think he was just 2 pounds higher or lower. I can't remember, to be honest. It was very close to the same mark. But it's funny how that happens year in, year out, isn't it? They just get to a similar mark in the ratings, and history does repeat.
Yes. Well, the start of the day, it was sort of a sleepy Just a quiet 1,000-metre race, but another win for Casper Founds, and Matt Chadwick was on the winner, Victory General. Then coming to the last, Matt Chadwick was able to claim his 4th win of the day on the expensive import, Helene Superstar, who's been able to finally put it all together in Hong Kong.
Some type of run. I mean, he was up on the pace, he got pressured a little bit mid-race, just kept up a strong gallop. They went very quick time, just outside of the track record, so outstanding performance from him. Obviously, I think the track again had a clear bias there to horses on the pace and near the rail, but we know he had a decent profile before he came here, and he's obviously come good at the end of the season, and great day for Matthew Chadwick. He'd been on the sidelines after a nasty fall. To come back and ride 4, I think at his 2nd or 3rd meeting back, is a terrific effort.
Well, I don't want to knock the track because it's amazing that we can race on it on a firm track like that, given the amount of rain we had, so you can't have it both ways. But the bias there on the weekend was just incredible, really. I mean, you could not make much ground. There was a couple of winners to come from slightly off the speed in a lower grade, but to run times like that in the sections that they were running that final race, Darren, and nothing run over the top of him, I mean, it's unheard of.
Yeah, well, if you're on one of those back markers, Travel Brother, for instance, you would have just been expecting it to swoop down the outside. I was mortified when I saw how fast they'd gone.
They ran home in 24.4, and not one back marker could get into it. So, I mean, that just shows you how much of the on-pace bias was there.
Now, well, we did speak about the trainers' rankings, and coming now to this program tomorrow night, the lead for John Sires is down to just 2 now, 58.